Hello, Stephen Koukoulas here, Economist in residence with Zagga. And, well, I'm going to be talking about just a hint, not too much, just a hint of optimism that's coming through in the economy. Just in the last little while, there's been a run of economic news that perhaps has been overlooked by many in the media, still concerned about economic growth. And yes, I'm still concerned about economic growth too. We're not about to have an almighty economic boom coming through, but, it's important but, did you know that in the last 6 months in trend terms, building approvals have increased, up almost 10% in the last 6 months? From a low base, I note, but nonetheless, it's good to have a positive sign there. Retail sales have risen for the last 5 months. In fact, the increase in August of 0.7 was one of the biggest we've seen in a couple of years. So that's good news too. Consumer sentiment up 6% in October. Business confidence up a little bit, again from a low base, but the turning points that are occurring in not just one or two or three indicators is reasonably encouraging. We've also got the stock market testing record highs. Obviously there's a bit of volatility there, but nonetheless there's a confidence in the corporate world about the economy. That's why stock prices are continuing to move higher, which is good news. And importantly, really importantly, inflation has fallen from a peak of 8.4% at the end of 2022. The most recent numbers are 2.7%, so in the RBA's 2 to 3% target range. And that's probably giving consumers and business a bit of confidence too, because wages are increasing by a rate that's more than inflation. So while, again, cost of living pressures are still very acute, don't get me wrong, but the turning points are occurring, and it's more than just one or two or three items. There's a number of them out there. Why is it happening? What's happening? Well, according to Westpac and others who have done some work on the consumer sentiment numbers, it was clear that the expectations for lower interest rates was one of the reasons that sparked this optimism in the consumer side. So the RBA's got to follow through and deliver interest rate cuts to validate and to reinforce this positive news on the economy. And if I look at the money markets now, yes, there are rate cuts still priced in to the money markets in Australia over the next 12 months, probably 1 to 125 basis points of rate cuts in there. Seems about right to me from this perspective and what's happening to inflation in the economy. So the RBA's got to follow through to make sure this optimism is also followed through on. So that's one of the things that's occurring. The other one, of course, from the 1st of July, householders and wage earners got a pretty chunky income tax cut. Now, not everybody got paid on the 1st of July, so paydays through the course of July and August have been seeing people get that extra few dollars in their pay packet. That's obviously feeding into that better news on consumer sentiment and retail spending. So that's one reason why the economy is a little bit better. Electricity subsidies, yes, they've impacted the headline inflation rate, but again, that's a cost of living issue. Don't get me wrong, it's a relevant issue. And that's also helping household budgets too. So as we sit here now, it looks as if there's what we might call the green shoots of a recovery. Yeah, I don't want to be optimistic too early, but there's a hint that the worst is over, including for the construction side of the economy with that lift in building approvals. I note one other thing too. House prices are slowing, and in fact we've now got 4 cities, Melbourne, Darwin, Canberra and Hobart, where prices are down. They're actually falling. Sydney's stalling, so it's going to be negative in the next couple of months. And even Adelaide, Perth and Brisbane, which are booming still, the rate of increase is slowing down. So perhaps that weakening in house prices that we've been expecting for a while is starting to come through. Again, no house price crash, but we're going to have a moderation in house prices. So all up, I'm hopeful, mildly optimistic about the outlook. There's some good news that's come through in the last little while, but the RBA needs to deliver on these rate cuts to validate this better economic news. All the best, and thanks to Zagga.